This one thing has made a massive difference to my success rate. I'm going to show you how I test a product before I launch a new business. This gives me access to real customer insight and helps me perfect my offer. All right, let's get started. So when you're starting a business, why do we test something first? Well, because without testing it, it can go really wrong. Let me show you. So this is a study from a group called CB Insights. And what they did was a post-mortem review of 111 failed startups. So they looked at these startups and they went, okay, why did this startup fail? Now, there's 3 items here that are really interesting for us and super relevant for the concept of testing an idea first. The first is no market need. So 35% of businesses failed because they developed a product that was not needed by the market. The next one is got out-competed. So other competitors managed to do something better than they did. And the other one here that's really useful, poor product, 8%. So you can see there's a number of reasons here that could have either been partially or possibly wholly mitigated with the right testing regime before the business started. Now, nothing's perfect, but doing testing would help massively in reducing this risk here. It's not just risk mitigation, there are also numerous benefits to testing your product before you get started. Let's have a look at these. They fall into 2 camps. One, the benefits related to shaping your features and shaping your offer. So these are identify which features your customers like the most. You don't really know until you put it out there. Link to the one above, challenge your own assumptions about what the customer actually cares about. You'll be surprised. It's not always exactly what you think. Get customer feedback, really important. They will help you identify where things are not working out or things could be better. Practice delivering your product to the customer. So actually the service angle of that. It's really helpful to get experience of actually going through the motions of getting your product, getting your service to the customer. Identify ancillary costs to the customer. So what are all the extra costs and disbenefits, all the effort required for the customer to use your product or service? It's important to be aware of this so that you can help resolve this in future iterations of your offer. And then get real data on your own costs. So what does it actually in reality cost to bring your product to market, get it made, get it delivered, get it into the customer's hands? Then the other group are items related to your sales and your marketing. So identify what messages the customer responds to, what really resonates with them. Practice pitching your offer, so describing your good and service to someone is a really important thing to hone in. Identify the customer's blockers, so the problems, the questions, the roadblocks. Again, these need to be addressed in your sales messaging. And finally, get amazing testimonials. So if you do something like an MVP or an initial sample or some free work, you should be getting big, good testimonials from that you can put on your website, put in your marketing material, and then it helps you get your next cohort of customers. So those are the benefits. There's a few ways that you can go about testing your product, but I'm going to show you 4 methods that I use to engage with my customers early, get feedback on what they like, and use that to shape my offer and my product. All right, let's get started on the first one. The first way is direct engagement, i.e. speaking with people. Now, this may sound obvious, but there is a right way and a wrong way to do this. So I'm going to show you how to get the best information from this step. If you've been enjoying this content, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it helps us to reach as many people and hopefully help new entrepreneurs get started in business. All right, back to the content. There are 2 main groups I like to seek out when I do this initial engagement. So your friendlies, friends, family, colleagues, people like that, and then potential customers. So your ideal customer that you're targeting, your real demographic, people that would theoretically buy from you if your product was already ready to go. Your priority is obviously potential customers. You want to seek out as many of them as possible and have conversations with as many of them as you can. Look for them online, so social media. If you're doing engagement online, make sure you're actually having conversations with people, so direct messaging and messages, things like that, not just doing more reading and research. And then in real life, so events they attend, activities they do, wherever your customers typically congregate, try and get to those spaces to have those conversations. Why I like engaging with family, especially if your product is like a B2B product, something like that, is if you use your mom or your grandparents or something like that, they're a good test of, do they understand what your product is? Is it clear what benefits they'll receive? So it's a good place to practice your pitch, perhaps on someone who doesn't know anything about what you're doing. The priority thing to start practicing is your pitch. Now, not in an overt way, but getting used to explaining your idea to potential customers. Do they understand what they're getting? Do they understand what the value is? Do they understand what the product is? This will really help you develop your sales messaging and help you refine how you deliver information about your product. The other thing that's useful is you'll start getting critical feedback and you'll start getting questions. So these are all the questions, roadblocks, problems that customers would have about your product. So make a mental note of this, because these are representative of the type of things that people would ask in real life about your product. So start collecting what they're pushing back on and what they're wondering and what they're asking about. That's really important. Another good thing to do is to ask people, if the product were free here and now, would you take it? Now, if they say no to a free product, ask them why. And they'll usually talk about the hidden costs to them of consuming your product. The hidden costs are the ancillary costs. So think about having a gym membership, for example. The cost to you of gym membership, not just the money, but also going to the gym, working out, having to educate yourself on how to properly exercise, eating right, all the other things you have to do and effort that's involved with going to the gym. So there will be hidden costs associated with your product. Try and find out what these are, because then when you design your product, you'll try and resolve as many of these things as possible. Apple products are very good at this. They make the integration, they make buying a new item from Apple very easy. They've solved that. So you'll do good work if you're focusing on those hidden costs. That will help you develop a better product. If you're speaking with potential customers, you also might be able to get a bit of a soft indicator of interest as well. There might be some actual people who are excited about your product and are interested in consuming it when it is ready. You might even be able to get some potential leads. So look out for the opportunity to collect people's information if they'll let you do so, and so that then you can contact them further down the line when you are ready. One thing I'd say with this stage is just take what people say with a pinch of salt. People are often very willing to be supportive and go, yeah, I'd buy that or something like that. Someone saying they would buy something is really different to someone getting their credit card out and paying for it. So just keep that in your mind and tone it down a little bit. Be aware that not everyone who said, yeah, I definitely buy this, will become a buyer in reality. That's important. Cool. So those are the important things to do when you are engaging with people. Let's have a look at the next item now. So the next method I like to use is a sign-up page. Now, a sign-up page is something that looks like this. What this is a page you create online that advertises your good or service as coming soon, and you send people to it to collect emails to get an indication of interest. Now, I'll put a link in the description. I've got a good site of example sign-up pages which you can use, which are here. So I'll put them in the description so you can check these out for yourself. Now, so how does a sign-up page work? The way you do it is this. One, you would create a landing page. So if you don't have a website already, you'd purchase a website and a domain, etc., and create a landing page. You would then embed a sign-up form on something like Wix or Squarespace. It's super easy to do this. You then create an ad, or if you already have your own list or own following, what you then do is send users to this sign-up page. Then you would collect emails when people arrive at it. And finally, what you would do is use the emails collected to give an indication, an approximation of the interest in your product. You're looking at two things: how well the page itself converts, so of X number of visitors, how many people sign up, and then the total number of signups you get. You would use a ratio to approximate how many of those signups would turn into paying customers. So you might use something like 50 to 1. So for 50 visitors, we're going to get 1 paying customer. That's an overall conversion rate of 2%, which is a nice conservative number to use to approximate how many people might be interested in your product. With sign-up pages, what you want to do is try and make it as realistic and representative as possible. So I use this one as an example here. You really want to try and describe your good or service in a realistic light. Don't embellish it, because otherwise the signups you get aren't going to be proportional to the reality of your product. So be honest about what it is you're providing. If you can show the price that you will eventually charge, that's good as well, because that just adds realism to it. This is an example of a page that's laid out quite well. So a good value proposition. Apologies for the quality on this, but it says resizing images has never been easier. Just edit the image tag and you're done. So this is a tool to help you resize images. So nice and clear what you're getting. There's a clear call to action, which is enter your email below to be notified when they launch the product. So that's where you put your email. And then some other benefits as well. So you've got benefits down the bottom and you've got a nice image of the product in the middle. So this is an example of the type of thing you'd want to create for your sign up page. Sign up pages are useful because they are a great opportunity to practice creating a few things. They're a good opportunity to practice creating a landing page. They're a good opportunity to practice your sales messaging and your copy, also creating ads as well. And they're also a great opportunity to collect leads. So if people willingly sign up here, then you've got leads that then you can contact later down the line, which is a really helpful start for your new business. The downsides of this are it's easy for something to throw off your results, especially if it's your first time doing it. Like if you're creating an ad, for example, you might create a sucky ad and then think, oh, no one is interested in my product. But in fact, it's just you're not very good at creating an advert. Likewise, you might struggle to create a compelling landing page or things like that. So be aware, if the delivery is not good, it can give you bad results. And that doesn't mean your product is bad. It just means you haven't created the right infrastructure to lead people to leave their contact details. The other thing is you need to be conservative here. As I said previously, it's really easy for people to say yes that they're interested in, very easy for people to leave an email, much more for someone to get their credit card out and then buy from you. So take these numbers with a pinch of salt and use a conservative ratio to indicate how many people are actually interested in your product. The other thing to be aware of is you need to adhere to UK laws around data protection. So you need people's consent for collecting their emails, and you need to make sure people are aware and opting in to being contacted in future. If that's what you plan to do with their email address, you then need to make sure that that email address is stored safely and appropriately, and all those good things around data collection. Now, with all these other tests we're looking at in this video, no one thing is a surefire definitive answer, but it does build up a picture for you to start to indicate if there is interest in your product and are customers potentially willing to buy it. Cool, that's sign up page. Let's jump on to the next topic now. If you're watching and you still have questions about how to move your business forwards, well then you can book a free 60-minute call with me. There'll be a link in the description. We can look at a topic that's important to you, whatever your biggest issue is, and try and come up with a plan for you on the call to get you moving forwards again. I'd love to speak with you. Places are limited, so act fast and hit the link in the description. I'll speak to you soon. So the next test I like to do if I'm running a service business is offer to do a bit of free work. Now, some people hate the concept of doing free work. There are practitioners out there who will say, never do it. But never is an absolute term, and I disagree with that. I think targeted work, if done well, can be worth its weight in gold when you are getting started. So here's when to use it and how to do it. You might need to do some free work at the start when you are struggling to get engagement from customers who would otherwise be reluctant if they would have to pay for the product or your service. You want to do this at the start where you need feedback on your product and where you need reviews and testimonials and where you need to get some work experience. Those first few reviews and first few testimonials are your foot in the door, and they're so critical to get, which is why those first few reviews can be more valuable than the money you would otherwise collect if you were paying for the good or service. So this is where it's really useful to do this free work, where you need that first engagement to get those first few reviews for your website, for your adverts, and things like that. Remember also that at the very start, if your service is new, your customer likely even be doing you a favor by engaging with your service. There will be kinks in your offer and your product to iron out. You will be new and you will make little mistakes. So having a customer that is prepared to engage with you fully, give you feedback, is a really valuable thing to do and will take up some of their time as well to do it properly. So to do free work well, there's a few things you've got to keep in mind. So first off, it should be targeted. Don't end up doing indefinite amounts of work without charge. Keep it targeted, keep it select. You want to explain the terms to the customer. So the terms are this: you're going to do some work for free, but there are things you want in return. So one is their full engagement with the process. So not like a half-assed, yeah, they might work with you, but not really. It's like, if they're going to do it, they're going to be serious about it and they're going to pretend like it's real, and engage with you and your service properly. The agreement is that they will give you candid feedback about the whole process, what worked well for them, and where you need to improve. And the deal is, if they liked your service, if you did a good job, they will leave a good testimonial for you and they will often refer you as well. That's the other thing you want. You want some referrals. Throughout this process, what you want to be doing is identifying all the hidden costs to the customer. So we've already talked about this, the ancillary costs. So these are all the hidden costs, all the effort the customer needs to go through to engage with your process. Identify what those things are and look at addressing those in your next iterations and rounds of your product. That will ultimately make your service so much better. Use these referrals you get at the end of the free work to bring in your next cohort of paying customers. So that's part of the beauty of this, is that if done well, you should then have a few raving fans who will bring in other people to you without costing you lots on advertising. So you've got your next bundle of customers to start going through the process, this time with charge. So that's my thoughts on free work. Let's look at the next item. Okay, the final test I like to run is an MVP, which stands for Minimum Viable Product. Think of an MVP like a stripped back version of your product without the bells and whistles, just the core components to allow it to be functional, and then getting that out to market to start to test response from customers and see what customers like about it. MVPs are used a lot by tech companies for digital products, tech products, venture-backed products as well. If your business is not one of those, though, don't worry. There's still ways to create that stripped back, minimalist version of your product to start testing it and getting it out there. One of the key reasons that we do a minimum viable product is risk mitigation. It allows us to get a product to market without investing our full startup funds. So you'll use part of your startup funds to get the MVP to market. But the good thing is then you've still got money left over. So if the MVP is not successful, you haven't burnt through all your startup funds, you've still got money left over that then you can use to iterate and improve. So that's why we do the MVP. It's about risk mitigation. There are other benefits too, though, that you get from running an MVP. So I've put the benefits back on screen, and I've also added a couple of others which are relevant to MVPs. So I've added number 7 here, and I've added 12, generate sales revenue. As you can both charge for MVP, so you might start charging, or you could do it for free as well. You've got 2 options there. So the other benefits of doing an MVP, all of these things are relevant to an MVP, but there are 4 things that are critical that you must get from an MVP. The first is identify which features your customers like the most. So you're, again, testing that assumption at this point. The reason why you do the MVP and you don't develop the full suite is because you risk developing features that customers just aren't interested in. So the MVP will allow you to identify which features the customers like. Really important. Get customer feedback. So it's really important that customers supply you with what they enjoy, what they don't like, and that you use that to iterate and improve your next version. And if it's, especially for things like tech products, it's really important to make sure the product is functioning correctly. You should have resolved most of these issues, but this is sort of a final chance to catch any teething points, iron out any kinks and things like that, so you can catch stuff before it goes out into the wider world. When you're running an MVP, you can tell people that it is an MVP test or a beta test. You can potentially release it to a more limited audience so that they are aware and perhaps somewhat more understanding if there are little kinks or any errors or things like that in your product. Cool. And the other one that you must do is get testimonials. These will be so important for getting your next round of paying customers. So definitely capture testimonials from the customers that liked your product the most. Let's have a look at how you would do the MVP. So you must plan it out. It must be done strategically and targetedly. And these are the things that are important to cover in your planning. So what are the objectives of your MVP? What things do you want to test? Is it testing assumptions around functionality? Do you have commercial objectives? Do you have marketing objectives? Think about what are your objectives from your test. Identify your leading features. So you'll probably have a long list of features that you think the customer wants. Work out which ones you're going to prioritize from the MVP. If you watched the previous video or the first video in this series, I talked about how to research a product and go online and find out what customers wanted. So you would use your leading features from that. So what are the top 2 or 3 features that customers love? And that would probably be the best place to start for the features you include in your MVP. You need to create a customer engagement plan. So just because it's an MVP doesn't mean you don't need to do marketing. You need to work out how to get your product to the customer. You need to work out how to bring customers in. So you will need a good marketing plan for this. You will need to have worked out the financials for your marketing plan as well. What's it going to cost you, either in effort of warm reach out, cold reach out, posting content, or investment by paying for paid ads. So you need to figure out the marketing side of it as well. Decide on your parameters. So what is your time? What is your spend? There'll be parameters for your MVP, like how long do you want to run it for? Figure that out before you start. So once you've done all that around the planning the MVP, then it's time to run it. So you'd run it for your designated period of time. During this period, you would monitor. So it's really important that you're monitoring the results. What's customer engagement like? What are customers saying? What are sales like if you're selling? How well is your marketing working for all of this? So monitor all those key things. You would then, at the end of the MVP, you would then review everything you've done. So what worked well, what didn't work well, and all of that information would then inform your next iteration of the product. So that's going to allow you to improve and to iterate. And this is why we do the MVP. This is why we haven't spent all our money yet, because the feedback we get from the MVP, you're going to use the money you still have to then do your next version, and so on and so forth. So that's the process for going through the MVP. The final thing you'll do then, once you've done all that, is then obviously just plan your next stage. So what's the next iteration for work, your product? What does it look like? So plan that next stage and keep iterating and go from there. There's a few tips and guidance points I've got for doing an MVP successfully and avoiding some of the pitfalls. You may, like I said, you may wish to say that it's an MVP or beta test to some of your customers. This will just make them perhaps a bit more forgiving or understanding of any functionality issues that exist. Be careful with an MVP about damaging your reputation. One risk is that you go too soon and it's too rough and ready, and this damages your reputation, any goodwill you might have built up, so that when you come to sell later down the line, you're facing an uphill battle because people think you have a bad or you had a bad initial product. So be really careful with that reputational piece. Make sure at least the MVP, the product, the features you're doing are really solid, and that will help mitigate that. Be careful about your IP as well. So if you've got important IP, particularly in a product, tech product, data product, be careful about if that can get out and get taken by competitors. So consider that with the MVP. And finally, this should be part of an iterative process. So you do your MVP and it allows you to the next version. It could be that you go then straight to the full product, or it could be you keep adding features and keep rolling on, increasing the price, improving the formality, and go from there. That's up to you as the business owner to work out what's appropriate for your product and your business. Cool. Hope you found MVP useful. Let's go on to the final part. So I hope this has been useful for you. Hopefully this has convinced you about the importance of testing your idea, and engaging with real customers before you fully launch your business. And hopefully it's shown you the importance of doing that to help you manage the risk of starting a new business. As I've said, no one thing will give you the full answer. It's about using different tools to build up a picture so that you can make a judgment about how likely your idea is to succeed. Ultimately, the closer you get to offering the full developed product at the full price, the more accurate the results will be. And that's why you iterate towards that point in time. None of these things are one use either. You can continue to use them throughout the life of your business as you add new features, as you add new products. You can always be engaging with customers. You can be running sign-up pages. You can be testing with free work. You can be testing with new MVPs. So these are tools that can serve you down the line as well. That's it. I really hope you've enjoyed the content. It's been awesome speaking with you again, and best of luck. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.